Today on Ship Chasing, we're hopping in the best ball tournament on FFPC. It's a $125 entry, $300,000 top prize. If you guys watched the Pros vs. Joes stream on Sunday night, you're kind of familiar with this format. Of course, we got the tight end premium. We got the couple flex spots. And it looks like we're going to have a friends and family draft here today with lots of familiar faces in this draft room. It's Ship Chasing with Pete, Ben, and Pat. Let's do it.
Pat Fryer Helmo.
This is why I'm hot.
Anita Handjob.
Fix your sight.
Jamar Alpha Play Chase.
Are you kidding me? Kadarius Toney?
You can't handle the heat.
It looks like we're finally at this point. You're right.
All right. What is up, fellas? We got one more spot available if someone wants to come dance with us in this contest. How are you guys doing?
Doing good. How you guys doing?
Good.
Yeah. It's been a busy day and now excited to draft. I do feel like a little bit in the groove having done the Pros vs. Joes. Gretch, I don't know if you feel similar, like I'm not coming in completely blind to this.
For sure. Yeah, and I had done one with Drico over on my YouTube channel as well already, which was helpful, I think, when I went to the Pro vs. Joes. But yeah, now I've done two, so I'm all the way there. No, I mean it's definitely a different format.
I've been on the FFPC since early June when I entered one of these and completely forgot about it and auto drafted. So that didn't prep me.
You're locked in.
Incredible.
A sit and go completely auto drafted. Beautiful.
Yeah.
We should mention we did an AMA yesterday on Reddit.
Yeah.
A ship chasing AMA that was quite fun. Check that out. We all had some good, useful answers and insight there. I loved your guys' answers. I always go way too long in my answers, but there's a lot of really good stuff in that for people who are interested.
Yeah. Ben was like, they'd be like, hey, like, quick question about this. And then like seconds later, 4 paragraphs from Ben. I was like, how the hell is he doing this?
Yeah, you guys
let the fingers fly.
The best one. We are off to the races here. I should say in 2 minutes, this draft is going to start. So we got this filled. We got the 12 spot here.
Okay. Time to live.
I was going to say the funniest part of the AMA, because and we didn't like collaborate on like who's grabbing what question. I mean, some were directly for one of us, so that made it easy. But the funniest one was Gretch and I both responding to a Chase Brown one at the same time, and someone was just like, Chase Brown, that's all, I'll take my question off air. And I just wrote yes, and then Gretch wrote like 2 paragraphs. And
But seriously, Chase Brown, here's why.
Yeah.
And then I got done and I hit send, and then I saw Pete's answer pop up, and I was like, oh, that was the right answer. I should let Pete in.
Apologies to the guy, because we were in there for like an hour and a half. I checked. I pulled it up like 4 or 5 hours later, and someone had like just asked a question of like, what's going on with this Malik Nabers ADP? This can't possibly work, can it? I was like, you're for that question, you're about 6 hours too late.
Yeah,
I did actually answer that.
You felt
our contact at Reddit was like, whenever you're done, go ahead and close it up. And I had forgotten to do that. And so I went back, edited the post, closed it up. And then I saw there was a couple extra comments, and that one was intriguing to me. And I wrote a long reply about Malik Nabers that I think was good. I almost shared it on Twitter because I was like, I got to put this in the Substack or something. Like, this is a good break.
Nice. You should.
Malik Nabers.
You should. Got to repurpose that.
Yeah.
It's funny because in my Deposit Kingdom video I did last week, like my favorite pick in every round, I did Malik Nabers as my 3rd round pick, and that has been by far the most polarizing one. Like, lots of the rando commenters coming out to get on me for that one. Daniel Jones stinks, the offensive line stinks, rookies, like blah blah blah. That is, and then I did a piece today for Fantasy Life looking at the Yahoo ADP, and you can get Malik Nabers in the 6th round, and I was like, wow. Guys, he's my favorite pick in the 3rd round on Underdog. So you imagine how I feel about him in the 6th round on Yahoo.
That's just one of those where like I'll never know what it feels to draft in the 6th round, because I would just draft him in the 5th or maybe even the 4th. It's just like I'm getting him. So yeah. I'm
not gonna try to push this guy to that round.
Yeah. That's crazy. That's actually crazy.
Also say This is a 20-round draft. Technically, I believe. How much time do you have? If this draft gets done in an hour, some of us have to go take care of our child at a hard out. If this draft gets done in under an hour, I will give a gift card to whatever team gets voted as the best in the chat. So that's an incentive for everyone. Well, I'll do a $50 gift card to the store. You can buy an exposure blanket. You can get whatever you want. If us collectively can get this draft done by 4:05 p.m. Eastern.
I saw Josh Downs.
If you buy an exposure
today.
blanket, we'll give you another gift card.
How do I buy how do I buy an actual exposure blanket into my exposures? Because I haven't been taking a lot of Josh Downs, and I saw that quote from Chris Ballard today. And
How are you not taking Josh Downs?
This dude, because I don't take a lot of receivers in that range. I'm
he
really
can ball,
idealistic about how I'm building receivers early, and then. But I've taken some of him, but I was like, man, I don't think I even have a 4% blanket, and I definitely need to get there.
I have a 14% quilt.
It's really good. I'm also really concerned about the pass volume in that offense.
Well, the other thing is I'm not sure I have a sham wow on Michael Pittman. Yeah, I've got a 1% towel.
So
You have a string bikini.
I don't take Pittman, but the RPO research I did last year and the fact that they ran so many RPOs even after Richardson got hurt, we're up. But
all right,
let's
Puka, JT, Barkley, the tight ends. Who do you like?
I mean, Puka.
Definitely Puka. I wonder if we should grab Laporta because I don't think we'll get an elite tight end at 3-4. Do you guys think, structurally speaking, we should maybe go? There's only 30-second clocks in these.
Because the chasers are going to want the tight ends more than the running backs.
Right. And especially tight end premium. I think it's going to be tricky to get. And we can
like
take multiple
tight
tight ends if we get a price we like later. But I kind of like this spot from the 12th to get.
I like it.
Yeah. I should. Oh, yeah. Sorry. Go ahead. Were you talking about Josh Downs?
Well, I was saying RPO point.
They were second. They threw the second most passes off RPOs per Pro Football Reference last year. And the whole write-up and research on that was that it concentrates targets to the wide receiver one because the linemen are run blocking and you can't get through your progression. So if you pull the ball and it becomes a pass attempt, it has to be to the first read. And I believe that's why Michael Pittman saw a career high target share.
I do too.
Yeah,
I agree.
And
with
so
I just think
Downs is super good outside of that.
Yeah.
Yeah. My concern is though with the lack of overall pass volume, if you are going to be second in total, passes in RPOs as well, that like even if Downs is super, super good in the rest of that subset, that there's only like 400 other pass attempts. And it's
but that assumes that they're going to give the RPOs at the same frequency to Pittman when Downs was really just as good as him before the knee injury. And that was without him getting all that RPO stuff and was a rookie and is now going to his second season. I think it's very fragile to assume that Pittman's going to get that work again. It's almost like running back carries or something where it's sort of like it was scheme touches in a sense.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I'm betting on the chaos of I bet he gets less of those scheme touches, even if there was a bunch of scheme touches in the passing game. More of them are going to go to Downs this year than they did last year.
Some of the per route stuff for the Dolphins would speak to this, where I always talk about how Tyreek's easily the top per route run guy, and then Waddle's still way up there. So I think they both get some of it. They're another team that's very high in RPOs. And I think you're right. It doesn't just have to be the number one passing option.
It's the number one on that play. It's not like Pittman. It's like the only guy you can run an RPO to.
It just tends to be the guy who's the easiest quick winner, but it might be Downs.
Downs might be the quickest winner on the team now.
Yeah.
For real.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I need to get more Downs, regardless. I think he's really good. I was super into him as a prospect last year. And then hearing Ballard, they're like, what do you think about the receiving core? He starts talking about other players. He's like, but I just really want to point out that Josh Downs is
let me get
better
my
than all of them.
Underline Josh Downs.
I took him in 3 slows this morning after I saw that. I was like, I got to get more Downs.
And the pricing is just, we have, we've seen this in years past with we kind of did this with the Broncos a couple years in a row where we were like, it's a Judy year and it was a Sutton year. It's a Sutton year and then it was a Judy year. And it's just a very, very, very confident, target pecking order that we have that is not in line with how different these players are in skill level. And I have a lot of AD Mitchell too, because he's pretty cheap. And if you look at
more at him,
if you look at the ceiling outcomes, AD Mitchell could easily be the best wide receiver on the team. Probably not as much of the RPO stuff, but just winning downfield in a way that Pittman
Richardson's
and Downs
skill
aren't.
set. That's why I take
Yeah.
Mitchell over Downs. I'm like better.
I take Mitchell over Downs too because he goes earlier and the ceiling is so juicy and the weekly ceiling and everything. But Downs is cheap, man. Like you can get both. I get both a lot because I take a lot of Richardson. So I have a ton of like Richardson, Mitchell, Downs teams.
We're definitely not on underdog anymore. Only 3 wide receiver picks in the second round. Marvin Harrison, Drake London, Olave. We see 4 tight ends go off the board after we take Laporta, Kelsey, McBride, Kincaid, and Andrews, and then 4 running backs. Henry, a couple double running back starts, Taylor to the Bijan team, Achane to the Brees team, and then the one hole went CMC Barkley and then kicks off Pitts there at the start. So should have some fun teams shaping up here.
Yeah, one part of that Downs thing that you just mentioned at the end, not to completely go back to it, but you take a lot of Richardson. I'm underweight on Richardson. I'm underweight all the elite QBs in general, and
it's hard to be overweight.
Yeah,
I've been kind of like pulling stuff towards Lamar recently, and then I've
done some Lamars.
Am I underweight Allen now? And then I've been underweight Mahomes, even though I take a lot of Kelsey, Worthy, and Rice, but I don't end up with Mahomes a ton.
Those are the ones I'm forcing in. Hurts and Allen and Lamar. More
I
so
don't
than
have quite
Richardson.
enough Hurts. I think I'm even with Hurts, but I should definitely be overweight in the 4th. But with the tight ends and with trying to stay strong at wide receiver and with not completely ignoring running back early, it's difficult. It's honestly difficult.
I was gonna say, especially with Stroud falling, because he's the one that I feel like I can get and I like the price on, and I'm still getting some of him where it's almost like QB window now. It's not elite QB because he's like going so you can get him at like pick 80, and it's like, all right, well, that's a different bet at pick 80.
Totally.
But you never get Richardson to fall that far. It just doesn't happen.
No, it really doesn't, because you can take him unstacked so easily because you have the 2 options. He's a running quarterback. If you only get one of Downs or Mitchell, that's totally fine. So like if you were to end up with naked Richardson, it's not the plan, but it's not like the end of the world. So, and I also take Richardson a lot with Kelsey. I take him with Flowers. I take him with Andrews. I take him to cover when I've got a weapon of elite quarterback and I don't get the elite quarterback. I like pivoting to Richardson a lot.
All right, we are about to pick on the turn here. We see, is that Austin Eckler? Am I seeing that right? Austin Eckler was drafted in the 3rd round. All right.
That's an auto pick. So somebody put Eckler in their queue.
Is that the Davis Maddox star method?
Might have been the start. Why?
Why was he start?
Why was he start?
I don't know if it's the Davis Maddox star method. It was
no,
a different star method.
It was a star method.
It's the J Timber star method.
So we're about to pick here. ETN falls is kind of one of the ADP values. There is like Pacheco, Ayuk, Evans, Ingram, Josh Allen, Nabers, Javonte.
I mean, Nabers is pretty fun.
Yeah, Nabers I would love to take as one of these. We don't have we do have a receiver.
I'll put Nabers in the queue. I really like ETN at this price relative to some of these other ones too. I mean, when Eckler comes off the board.
What about the other receivers available?
Yeah, you're looking at the Ayuk, Evans, Devontae Smith.
Ayuk went. Oh, we went on an auto.
No, we're good.
No way.
Okay.
We're good. We're good. I turned it off. Yeah.
Just I think I'd be Evans or Smith, but
Diggs
I'm okay with Diggs. I think I'd be Evans or Smith.
Yeah.
I'd be okay with ETN though if you want to go that route.
I think we could go ETN. I think we're feeling like we'll get some.
I mean, 2 D2 through 4. I mean,
it's a little different world over here. Let's go ETN.
Let's do ETN.
Okay. I'm jumping on your.
Okay.
I like what you're doing here.
I wanted to receive it for the record.
We might get avalanched.
Well, it is a tough calculus, right? Because we talked about this when we did our preview last week of kind of the FFPC landscape, and now we're in our main event draft right now. For you YouTube members, we've been posting mini-sodes. The first 2 are up through 4 rounds, and there's definitely a choke on running backs, and where a lot of the really good running backs come in a range, you really want to be taking wide receivers. And I've kind of liked the builds where you get one of these running backs. We did Breece Hall spoiler alert, in our main event there. And I feel like it's just opened up so much flexibility to us. It doesn't preclude us from taking one of those running backs, but I just think is the path for the best structural building here.
And also, you only have to start 2 receivers. I mean, I understand like the avalanche is a concern, but if you get stuck in an avalanche in these rooms, you can pivot to attacking flex other ways, especially with tight end premium as well. Like if wide receivers go off really heavy here, we might be looking at tight end picks that we like at the 5-6 turn potentially, which are options as well. I think there's other outs in FFPC build structure as well.
Yeah, I just don't love ETN at this price.
Yeah,
I just would rather take. We're getting
Evans?
guys going at the 2-3 turn on underdog versus a guy going at the 4-5 turn on underdog, and to me, I just rather have the receivers at the 2-3.
But those ADPs are entirely because of the being able.
Not
to start
entirely.
forward.
I mean,
it
it's
was only
certainly
Evans.
And
Who are
Smith.
the other receivers? Devonta Smith went in the middle of the 3rd round.
Smith's going at like the 2-3 turn. I
No,
mean,
we didn't have an option of drafting.
Oh! I thought Smith.
So it was only Mike Evans and then Diggs.
Yeah. Okay. Pete mentioned Mike Evans, but he also mentioned
Well,
that
like DJ Moore is a guy
Ayuk
that's
went too.
split. Yeah.
Oh, DJ
Yeah.
Moore. DJ Moore was one we could have taken. Okay.
Yeah, I think Evans. I mean, I don't even love Evans, but he's pretty strong wide receiver pick, and you just kind of stack wide receivers. Would be my preference.
Yeah, that's fair.
ETN is
Cam
like
C-
he's fine.
Cam C in the chat said, would you ever consider McBride at 201 for the week 17 correlation, or is Laporta just a very different tier? We've talked about, like, I'm probably going to have McBride as my tight end 1. I don't think it's a different tier at all. And I just wanted to tell Cam, I think that's an awesome strategy, and you should definitely do that if you get that opportunity. I wish we would have talked about doing that in this
I would
draft.
have been fine with it because it's, especially in this format where week 17 really still matters a ton. It's not like the 3-week sprint format like in the main event. And I mean, I'm not as high on McBride as you are, but if he hits, he's going to hit in an extremely friendly way for tight end premium. Like if he hits, I think if you're like a little bit more McBride skeptical, making sure you're tilting your McBride exposure towards the most PPR you can is probably a good way to, not have a huge bag and still be happy if he goes off.
And I know this is the dumb way to talk about it, but it is true. Like if you're doing your one draft here and McBride's your guy, like take McBride right here. We're going to end up doing a handful of these. We're going to have a bunch of main events. And we actually talked through this similar concept on the first or the second main event mini-sode episode, where we're thinking because McBride's ADP has a range where he falls kind of smack dab in the middle of round 2, you're going to have a lot of cracks at him if you're doing multiple drafts. And so that's the only thing where it's like Laporta, you're only going to have cracks at him at basically the 1-2 turn. So if you want any Laporta, that's when you have to grab him.
And somebody was asking in the AMA yesterday about, if you only have a couple shots at the BBM, like he had said that he kind of feels a little discouraged because he's going up against a bunch of people that are max entering and all these things. And Pete, you had some good advice for him. I went with a little bit of a different angle than you did, which your advice was about like contest selection and stuff, which is really strong advice as well. But mine was like, I actually think in some ways there's an advantage to that, where the 150 drafters are balancing portfolios. We're intentionally not taking our favorite picks sometimes because we are doing some of the things that you just said. I think when you're drafting against those people, we talk about this, they're not going to steal your quarterback and sniping that stuff. They're much less likely to take an unstacked pocket passer and wind up blowing up your stack. It's almost like a nice thing to draft against badge bros because they stay in their lane. It doesn't actually mess with your draft too much. The one thing you might miss is like some real fallers. But I think the advantage, I would say, if you're only doing a couple, BBM drafts, is you can chart your own path. Like we talk about the differentiation. Like if you want to go Nuka McBride like this, Puka McBride like this, it's a very unique idea. And because you care more about that one draft than any 150 maxer is going to care about any of their one draft, they're not going to care more about 10 of their drafts than you will about your one draft. Like you're going to come up with some unique stuff like this that I think you should approach and you should try and you should go after. I think you're still going to be at a disadvantage for total number of entries, but that's just the reality of it. You only have a few teams. They have 150 teams, but each team is going up against the same number of total entries in the contest, right? And you're one team, you can chart this path like Pete was saying. We're like, I like this guy a lot. I'm going to pull him up, build something unique. And I think it's kind of an advantage.
It's not an advantage because you're going against, like, when you draft at volume and you kind of let the room try to give you some amazing stuff, you will get that amazing stuff from time to time. So if you just leave yourself open to it over a large sample, you're going to get like a sick version of a team that someone who reaches for it to make sure they have it will get. But it requires throwing some teams away in the sense, like when it doesn't work, or throwing some better versions of the team that you would have liked away. And if you're doing like 3 teams, the odds that one of those teams falls into your lap in those 3 teams are pretty low. So I don't have any issue with like making sure you get a team you're really happy with. But I also would say it does put you at a disadvantage in the sense that, like, if you're drafting with the mindset of like, I'm going to try to push for some of these insane combos to come my way, you will get some of those combos over a large sample. But it's more of a best ball thing than even a main event thing, because it's hard to have
compare it to DFS, and I think the 150 maxers in
Hang
DFS
on, we're on the clock.
Let's do this.
So wide receivers available by ADP: Hollywood Brown, Keenan Allen, Calvin Ridley, Jaden Reed, Rashee Rice would probably be the interesting names here.
Keenan feels good.
Keenan
feels awesome. I also have no problem grabbing Rashee Rice here either.
I think Rice is Worthy gone, or Worthy goes later.
Worthy's later. Yep.
Okay, let's go Rice.
All right, Keenan and Rice.
Yeah,
and I mean, we could go. We could go Rice. We could go Jaden Reed. I think is a solid play.
You want Reed or Rice? I like both.
I prefer Rice.
Okay, let's do Rice. Just because we took the 2 detours, Pat. You seem to be. I was thinking because you're concerned about the wide receiver depth, like games played risk here.
But I do think what you were saying, Ben, the DFS analogy is actually pretty good, right? Because if someone's making a 150 max set, it is a way more of a portfolio exercise for them of like, how do I get the certain exposures in this DFS tournament? Whereas the single entry hand builder, like, they're kind of trying to accomplish different things of like, I'm going to make the best version of the lineup I can make for this week. I do think there's some comparables there.
There's definitely comparables. I think it's easier in DFS. The case that I've made is that the parameters in the week, and like weekly projections are way better than season-long projections, way more accurate because you know the parameters going in. And it's also 9-man lineups that you can correlate like meaningfully. And so you can build for certain contingent scenarios. And the people that are really good at 150 maxing can build for some, scenarios that if you're hand building, you might not actually like. You might not have the best version of that team, like Pat was talking about it in best ball. I think it's easier for the 150s that are really good in DFS to build the best versions of things because it's known. In season long and best ball, it's a moving target throughout the year. We don't know what's going to happen in week 3, let alone what's going to happen in week 17. We know that, and it's also an 18-man roster. And so I think like the idea that a 150 maxer would be able to build the like correlated lineups in such a better way that they would be in a way better advantage in any one of their individual lineups. To me, it doesn't pour it over, mainly because I think the projections are going to be a lot weaker and are not going to be able to understand. And also because I think like it is, to me, the best ball thing's more of an exercise in a portfolio, because I think some of the guys who do 150 just pick like 2 games and then they stack it so many different ways that they have that. If that game blows up, they have like everything from that game covered that week. You know what I mean? They have like the ancillary pieces. Well, my brother corrected me on that.
Is that people are now using sims, and they can not only dial in the exposures, but all of them are actually going to be really well correlated lineups.
Right. Like perfect. And I don't think you can do that in best ball. It's so hard to get a perfect 18-man roster. Even when stuff falls to you, like you're saying, Pat, like my argument would be like, okay, well, you have like, you probably have like an extra 5th round pick because of that, because you got some good values throughout. But that 5th round pick could just be a wash in the long run. Like it does. The teams that win in best ball aren't perfect. The teams that win in DFS are perfect. You know what I mean?
Yeah, although they're not usually perfect.
Yeah.
What I'm saying with the ADP,
they don't have misses, right? In best ball, there's misses in the 18 rounds usually.
Yeah, sure. There are. and you're playing for the tournaments, a half a year away, so it's almost impossible not to have misses. But just on the point of the ADP value, it's kind of like compared to DFS. It would be like, what if there's a button on your DFS lineups where the system randomly assigned you a player with a salary band of, and it's just one spot on your lineup, and a salary band between like 5K and 7K on DraftKings, but you didn't know, and it cost like 6K to use that button for that player. If you're running 150 set, like, you're probably using the button. If you're building one lineup and it's like representing maybe it's like a pretty big size of your bankroll, I don't know if I use the button. I want to build the lineup the way I want to build it. But like, there's something that can be plus EV, but you're like, yeah, but is it going to actually like occur in this? Like, am I running enough lineups to where I feel good about the thing actually happening? Because when it doesn't happen, I feel like it's negative EV because I didn't get to pick the player on this lineup that I like the most. Does that analogy make sense?
That does. I think we're thinking about it pretty differently, which is like fine. I don't think what you're saying is wrong, but I think I'm approaching it from this perspective of like the idea in the chat that sparked this thought for me was the Puka Trey McBride thing, and I think that would create a really unique. I mean, it won't be super unique because Puka will go 10 sometimes and McBride will go 203, but those types of thoughts and those types of approaches, like I agree with you that you wouldn't get the perfect because you have to reach in some cases to do like to carve out a certain path in your build or whatever. And I agree with you that like individuals that are doing their one draft and going and getting their guys are not going to have the best version of those builds. But I also think
that's okay. I don't
be
think
more thoughtful.
Yeah.
I think they could build some really thoughtful constructions because they're actually focused. I'm like, man, I'm doing 100 drafts right now, and they're not very thoughtful. My slow drafts, I'll just put it that way.
Right.
And a lot of the stuff that we do is exposure related, or I mean, is exposure related. We're just throwing on players at the end, like you guys in the fast drafts and stuff are throwing on players at the end that are like stack or correlated, and it's because you also haven't drafted enough of them, and you want to get some of them. You don't really believe in it, right? In that pick, and that could hit still, but. I don't know. You're like you're intentionally taking a suboptimal pick. Like Sacrilegious wrote about that a little bit this offseason.
Yeah,
like,
you're mixing
really
in a little bit of a suboptimal pick. Yeah. But you're with the idea that it's part of a portfolio that's not suboptimal to include because there's so much variance. We just don't know.
All right. I think we're going to be able to capture the end of a pretty big wide receiver tier coming up here. The players available by ADP: DeAndre Hopkins, Jordan Addison, Hopkins goes Addison, Keon Coleman, Brian Thomas, and then you're down to the Jamison Williams, Sutton, Samuel stuff.
I'm Thomas there.
BTJ.
Definitely Thomas.
Yeah.
What about the other positions?
The other positions you're looking, Ramondre Montgomery, Zamir White, Joe Burrow, DeAndre Swift, Jonathan Brooks, Najee Harris, Mostert, Jalen Warren.
I mean, I'd be into Brooks or Warren if we go away from receiver.
I think if we were worried about the ETN pick, we should grab the end of this tier with one of Addison, or if you consider Coleman.
I
don't like Addison.
I don't like Addison with Rice so much.
I don't either, but we do have 4 other receivers, and it is back weighted. I don't mind it. We're getting the right price on it. I would be
2 rookies and a suspended guy.
Who do you want,
another
Pat?
suspended guy's
Who's
not
your
ideal.
vote? You want Coleman?
I mean, I would want one of the running backs, but if you guys are both Addison, take Addison.
I like Addison.
Yeah, I like Addison. I don't have as much concern about the Addison Rice thing personally. We don't know the suspensions on either.
Well, according to Dricko, we
overlapping
took
for
one of the
2
most
games?
expensive shares of Rashee Rice in this tournament, so we're playing it as he is not suspended at all.
To me, all I hear is this tournament's kind of soft.
Hasn't gotten a fit since May, and we took him 601.
I'm not playing in this enough. Is what Trico's telling me.
That's true.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, and you could definitely, maybe we say that we prefer that 2v2 of like Evans, Brooks versus ETN and Addison. That's definitely fair, but I think it's close.
I mean, we do have 2 rookies that we need to count on early now, but Nabers and BTJ are both day 1 starters. They're both first-round picks, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, Nabers is like day 1, number 1.
Yeah. I guess when I said right, I was thinking maybe BTJ is not. Maybe.
Ryan calling me out. Maybe it's soft due to the auto drafters. That was
I
once,
think
Ryan.
you didn't mean this room. You meant the contest in general.
No, but I think he's
referring to when
referring
Pat
to
signs
me
up for
autographing.
these, it doesn't log into the site and autographs the whole team.
So our team so far, we got the 5 wide receivers: Puka, Nabers, Keenan, Rashee Rice, Brian Thomas, and Jordan Addison. Or sorry, up to 6. And then we got Sam Laporta at tight end and Etienne at running back.
Yeah, I definitely do prefer the Evans Brooks side of that 2v2. I don't know if you guys are.
Well, then you're just running into the same concerns about early season production.
Well,
that you're
also,
talking about.
when I say Brooks, I really meant Warren.
Destroyed by your own facts and logic.
Evans, Warren versus Etienne, Addison. I think I'm taking. Well, I mean, I don't really like Evans, but I can see why you would like the Evans Warren side. I think I'm taking Etienne, Addison, but I can see that.
Yeah,
I think Addison, look, I understand the suspension risk. I understand all that stuff. He has a really good year 2 profile. He's a strong prospect, very productive at 2 different places in college. Comes in immediately efficient, not a massive target earner, but good enough for a rookie, for a young rookie, for an early declare. I mean, there's like nothing to not like about Addison, but people are just sort of bored of him, and the situation's bad. But we have a really good idea.
there's not nothing to that. I think. I mean, he wasn't like amazing. 1.50 yards per route run. He was good. I don't think he's bad at all, and I think he's an interesting player as a second-year breakout bet. But like, you got Sam Darnold as your quarterback, probably best case. Worst case, J.J. McCarthy, and that's probably down the stretch. And the suspension risk thing, I think in some ways it's more concerning than Rice, because Rice we might lose half the season, but I would imagine it's either the first half of this season or the first half of next season. Addison's in a position where it's kind of a cookie-cutter 3-game suspension that he's looking at, and there's precedent of them handing that out as soon as it's resolved, which might mean he misses the fantasy playoffs. That's not impossible. So that's a such a disaster.
What's the precedent of that?
The precedent is a defensive player who had a DUI and got suspended for the last few games of the season a couple years ago, or maybe last year. Sam Sherman did a deep dive on this.
A player who you can't name on a year that you can't name.
Well, because I didn't do the research, but Sam shared with me that there's a defensive player. It's a defensive player, Ben. You cut me some slack here. But it's the point being that the DUI stuff is not like they've got to sit down and figure out what the right suspension length is. Like, they know what it is. It's going to be 3 games, and it happens as soon as the DUI, legal proceedings conclude, and that might be pretty soon, but not before the season. Which it's just like an additional kind of like, God damn, if I lose this guy late in the season, it's hard to quantify how bad that is, but I
would like to know the details of the player, but if that's a real thing, like, I can understand that concern. But where I was going, I hear your point about the 1.5 yards per run, but he was really efficient. We tend to expect more volume the next year. The big reason his yards per out run was a little bit lower was that he had a 17% targets per out run, which is good, but not great. But
don't we care about that more than yards per target?
The yards per target leads to more. The efficiency, fantasy efficiency leads to more volume the next year in year 2 players. Blair Andrews has done a ton of work on that, and it's like very conclusive. And so the 10 TDs matter as well. But the yards per target element and the TDs is like he was really efficient, and he was a 21-year-old rookie playing with Justin Jefferson as far as the target volume is concerned. Like, I think he actually saw more volume with Jefferson, but then also was playing in like a really shitty passing game after Cousins got hurt. So I mean, there's like caveats both ways. But so this is why I'm like, I think he's good. Like, he was really efficient.
I think he's good too. I think
yardage, touchdowns, really good in college across all 3 years, across 2 different offenses, 25 plus targets per out run, 3 different seasons, efficient the final 2, very good yards per out run in college. There's a lot of reasons to think Jordan Addison's just a good football player. It's a bad situation, I'll grant that. But I was going to say that I think he's being held down by that. And the fact that we now get him and like Keon Coleman's really the only opportunity cost, and it's the end of the wide receiver window, I'm willing to take the suspension risk. Now, when you start talking about the suspension potentially being in weeks 15, 16, 17, that's when I get a little afraid.
It's just hard to know when we just don't know when it will be. And that risk is low, but it's such a disaster.
That would be a disaster.
Yeah.
I agree.
All right, real quick, because we're about to be on the clock. A few options here. Pat Freiermuth falls at tight end. Quarterback Trevor Lawrence, if we wanted to stack up with BT and ETN, the best available running backs are is Tajay Spears, Javonte Williams, Chase Brown.
So I like the Lawrence idea for getting.
I like the Lawrence idea too.
Yeah,
and I like those running backs. Tajay, Javonte, and Chase Brown.
Freiermuth is the ADP faller.
Okay, let's go Trevor Lawrence.
By like
honestly,
rounds on this site.
I think Javonte is just a smash at this point.
I mean, I think you're the smartest guy I've ever heard.
This whole thing, I said this on ADP chasing. Davis disagreed in the sense that Estime was he's buying some of the Estime stuff.
Do you not like Javonte, Pete?
No, I would take Spears over him now. I just like it's not even saying you guys are wrong about it. It's just like he's gonna continue to get cheaper, I think.
I don't think so. I think it is flipped. Did you see the Peyton stuff yesterday?
No, that he's in really good shape.
Peyton was gushing. He had this whole thing that they met in the offseason. He had his college tape on, and he was like, This is the back I want. What did you weigh here? And he was like, I don't know, like weighed like 205. He's like, get down to that weight. And then he showed up and he was like, he looked trim, he looked faster. He basically did exactly what I asked him to do, and he looks awesome. And Peyton, like any of the concern, like, and he mentioned, like, look, he was hurt last year. He looks different now. He looks really different now. Like,
has there been a more unless narrator in coach speak
than Sean Payton?
With Mims,
who told us he was going to get Marvin Mims involved all last year, and it was all lip service.
I know he's completely unreliable with Mims, but it wasn't even just what he was saying. It was like the way he was saying. He was like very pleased with the way a player had reacted to what he reacted to.
That's the part of that makes me excited. Is he's like, I asked him to do something and he did it. That's cool. And put in the work to do it.
Like it's like reshape your body, and he did.
That's exciting.
Yeah. So I think, and also that my prior is that
cut, Pete, you're right. Like Sean Payton's a donkey.
My prior on the he will get cut stuff was that it was most likely total bullshit. And just based on speculation, like not like, anyone trying to do anything, to like muddy the waters, but just like it was speculation based on how he did last year, which isn't particularly valuable for us who are like constantly looking at how players did the previous year. So having someone chime in like, oh, he wasn't very good last year. It's like, we know.
We're very aware.
We know.
There was also hype on Estime from camp today too. Like he talks glowingly about Estime every time.
They like Estime. They do like Estime. It'll be a committee of some sort, but we're down in when Pollard's in a committee, Spears is in a committee, Chase Brown's in a committee. I think
this is full PPR, and they're going to throw the backs a ton. They're going to
throw the backs a lot.
Committee, but the high value touches are going to be incredible.
Yeah, I think Spears is the better pick there. Just
for the
because
PPR.
Aren't you getting a lot of the same things? You're also getting one less back in the equation. We're also getting week 17 correlation opposite our Jag stuff.
The week 17 correlation is a good point.
The week 17 I hadn't thought of. I think you're not getting the same thing because the way I've talked about committee stuff in my high value touch research is the size of the overall pie dictates whether they're worth going after. I think there will be plenty of high value touches in Denver, which makes that committee worth approaching. I think Tennessee's offense, Pat and I were talking about this yesterday in the DMs, but I think Tennessee's offense might be the worst in the NFL. Like I'm actually pretty out on it. I like Spears. He's the one piece that I'm actually willing to take bets on, but I do think that will limit the high value touches in that offense. Basically, I think there'll be some passes, but I don't think there'll be a lot of touchdowns. And so then you're in a committee in an offense with a smaller pie, and that becomes less appealing to me. So I think that's different for me between these two.
Yeah,
I think there are scenarios where it is like that backfield is divvied up in thirds, like pretty evenly. I think that's also in play for the Broncos.
That's in play. I think the advantage that Javonte has, if Estime makes the team, is that he's going to be the pass protector. Jaleel, I mean, unless he really, really cleans stuff up, they don't trust him at all, and he's undersized. And then you got a day 3 rookie in Estime, who was an early down banger. He wasn't like a passing down guy in college. So, Javonte could kind of marry some of the Pirine stuff with his early down role from last year. And yeah, I don't expect him to see like 70% of the snaps. It's probably like 55, 60. I think if he gets to 60, we're feeling pretty good. As long as the role is kind of what I'm envisioning.
I don't even know if he needs 60. I seem to have a very different view of Peyton's backfields than most, but I've made that case many times. I don't need to.
All right, couple updates here. We are starting to pick up speed a little bit, as Nick mentioned. We got to pick up the pace to get this to unlock the gift card. We're about to be on the clock at the 11-12 turn. Caleb Williams went, so no stack with Keenan. Just reading off the literal top of the queue here: Tua, Nick Chubb, Jerome Ford, Justin Herbert, Zach Charbonnet, Kirk Cousins, Matthew Stafford, Hunter Henry, Kendre Miller, Rico Dowdle. Wide receiver, you do have some of the Green Bay guys, although nope, Dobbs just goes. Wicks is still here. Myers, Mike Williams, Josh Downs.
What do you like?
Charbonnet's kind of the running back name that jumps out to me here.
That's a good one. Any tight ends left?
What's up?
Any tight ends?
No, we're into K-Dot and Noah Fant range.
Yeah, that's why I was kind of intrigued by Freiermuth. But yeah, we're K-Dot and Noah Fant. I'm gonna put Charbonnet in while we discuss.
Works. And then any other running backs?
The other running backs you're looking at: Chubb, Jerome Ford, Kendre Miller, Rico Dowdle, Ty Chandler, Jaleel McLaughlin, Jalen Wright.
I would be intrigued by Dowdle. I would also go with, I think Fant is honestly in play. And then Wicks or Downs are also interesting to me.
Yeah.
I'm fine with any of that. Dowdle and Chandler as well. I mean,
let's do another running back because they're going to get thinned out fast
go ahead.
here.
Do Dowdle.
Grab Dowdle. So we now have 4 running backs: Etienne, Javonte, Charbonnet, and Dowdle.
Man, you get boxed out at tight end on the turn.
Yeah, you do.
Yep.
Wait, we had Bowers available to us at the 5-6. I thought he wasn't on the. I was like trying to find him.
Well, we needed to catch up at wide receiver.
Yeah.
I don't know if we
kind
could.
of feel like instead of the Rashee Rice pick,
we should have taken Bowers. Just played it as a flex play.
And we could have taken like Downs here instead of Dowdle.
Yeah.
An update on the Austin Eckler pick. The manager is in the FFPC chat, says, "Ugh, I have zero clue how Eckler auto drafted in the 3rd round." So, neither do we.
Can't help you. Someone noting that Javonte had a 50% snap share last year coming off a horrific knee injury. So, but I guess there is the concern with Javonte is that they really didn't like that, and that maybe he would actually lose work from there.
I think the thing that I most disagree with you, Pat, is I don't think Javonte is going to win the ADP culture war. Like, I think he is going to get cheaper. I mean, people are already not bought in, and yes, that was encouraging today, but I think the Estime stuff, but people love Jaleel McLaughlin. They're going to point to the 2. It's going to be similar to like the Packers thing, right? Where everyone's obsessed with Wicks because it's the cheapest and an ambiguous thing. Like, no one wants to like plant their flag on Jaden Reed. Like, I just don't see sentiment ever getting that steamy for Javonte.
It's going to require kind of what I think will happen to happen. But what I think will happen is kind of like along the lines of sort of where James Conner stuff is gone, where like normally we wouldn't expect Benson, the exciting rookie, to fall and Conner to rise. But I just think that I think the situation in reality is a lot more pro Javonte than people realize. And it's starting now to where we would know about that because they're actually in pads. And we're going to,
the situation is insanely pro Javonte.
Yeah.
Like, dude, I think you're so good at reading that stuff. But when you were saying that, I was just like, that would be insane to me.
No, but I'm not saying what's right or wrong. I'm literally saying, you guys don't see, like, as they talk about, like, the sentiment for ETN or Estime and McLaughlin, like those are literally two of people. If you did like a Family Feud style poll of like who's your favorite click right now, McLaughlin and Estime would be like near the top for the underdog.
But the fact is, this is arguably the most undervalued backfield. I saw somebody in the chat as well that the sentiment was like, well, they project to be one of the worst offenses in the league. And like, fine, but I can't do the whole thing again. But like, go read my newsletter stuff about how Bo Nix fits and the target volume and the Sean Payton history of target volume. They wrote about it at RotoViz. A lot of people are talking about it. Herzig tweeted the other day, generational wealth is going to be earned from buying the Javonte dip. Like, there are people that are like, as soon as this starts to slide to a certain degree, they're like, this is insane. Like, Sean Payton's lead back, who he gave more touches than all the other backs in the backfield combined last year, off the multi-ligament major knee injury, who's looking better this year, who is pretty clearly the number one, except for one beat reporter speculating make it cut, which, like, I read it the same way Pat did. It seems like he just looked at last year's yards per carry.
Yeah, but my thing is, he said by a generational buying the dip opportunity, we took him right at ADP, which is kind of my point. Like, we're not actually
but I think the dip
value from the dip.
Yeah. I think the dip has kind of like finished dipping, and also I don't know. I do think he's going to be a riser because, like the Connor situation where people realize like, oh, we had this one wrong. This guy's just the starter. I think we're going to realize, like, over the course of training camp, people are going to realize that Javonte Williams is the Broncos starting running back. And they've basically been in line to do that the entire way, but we had it wrong.
The case I was going to make is even if Estime and Jaleel rise, I don't think Javonte should fall because I think they're collectively massively undervalued. I think Javonte's multiple rounds undervalued, which is why I talk about him on every freaking stream that I do solo, and I draft him like 40% of my teams. But even if you don't believe that and you're in on a Estime and Jaleel, he's still a steal in this range right now.
Right.
And if those guys rise, he shouldn't fall. Like, he doesn't need to fall to compensate that. We're low on a backfield that could have 200 targets. Like, it could be massive how many running back targets could. They led the league last year with 153. I think they could go up 33% from that, from last year's
losing
league leading number.
Who was a big part of
and they might lose Pirine, who had 50 catches last year. Yeah. It all consolidates back to mostly to Javonte, and I think Jaleel gets a bump too, but
yeah, the estimate stuff could be good for Javonte and Jaleel. That's the interesting part, is the estimate. Right. Estimate's an early down guy.
He won't catch passes. Yeah, I'm taking a lot of estimate, but I'm worried that he won't actually get in on that. But I'm taking it in case he does, because I don't think he's a smash.
All right, we're about to pick. We are going to need to think through, I guess, a little bit with quarterback stuff. Depending on how we feel about like Daniel Jones and McCarthy and I guess Bo Nix. Like, you know who's here? Xavier Legette at this price feels pretty nice to me if we want another wide receiver. The running backs you're looking at are Jalen Wright, Vidal, Chuba, Antonio Gibson, Tyler Algier, and Ray Davis.
Is there any tight end with a pulse left? It doesn't look like
Chig, and then you're into likely Ben Sinnott.
I think Juwan Johnson is the best tight end by kind of a lot. They have a lot of available underneath targets in that offense. It's all high 8.
Are you guys good with me grabbing Legette here first?
Yeah, I am.
So
Juwan's hurt though. I mean, that's the concern.
If we have another slow start guy.
Yeah,
I think that's more than baked in at this point.
The one positive about Juwan too is he opens up another quarterback option.
Yeah, later. That's true. I'm fine with Juwan. I mean, Juwan's definitely got a ceiling.
All right, we probably want to get to 3 tight ends anyway. So, and Laporta, gives us a little cover. I know we can flex him, but
So 2 years ago, he got to 16.7 targets per out run, which the first couple years of his career, he was really low. Last year, he jumped all the way to 18.8% career high. And Michael Thomas had about 80 targets in this offense last year at a lower ADOT. Hayden Winks has also noticed this and tweeted out earlier that all of the Saints wide receivers have really high ADOTs, so including Olave. I think this could be great for Olave, but also Shaheed is just a deep threat. A.T. Perry has a high ADOT. This is part of why Kamara got a ton of targets last year as well. They don't have a lot in the underneath area of the field, actually. And Johnson saw a career high targets per out run last year as a result of this. Thomas had 64 targets, only played 10 games, 6.4 targets a game last year. I know, like, Michael Thomas we've all memory hold him, but he had 6.4 targets per game in his 10 games last year. He was like a pretty involved player in the range where Juwan Johnson operates. This offense, like, especially if Olave doesn't come down, has room for Juwan Johnson to set another career high in like targets per out and get like just a lot of like cheap underneath volume.
Dude, before the foot injury, my bags were packed. He was going to like 170 something on underdog, and I was just like,
Who?
I mean, Juwan Johnson.
Oh yeah.
I just was drafting the hell out of him. But the foot injury definitely makes me more nervous because the potential for re-injury. We can't drop these guys. So that's just I've definitely cooled off a lot.
The Chig stuff is like they're going to rotate him.
I mean, Chig is potentially just a 0 all year.
Right.
Not a 0, but
good spot for tight ends regardless. Yeah. I can at least make a ceiling case for Juwan.
Sanat would be the guy that I would have been most excited about as a big cut. But like we are only getting like probably one chance at a real tight end too. So he was scary in that context. He's more of a guy you tack on as a tight end 3.
I like that. Or I mean, we could do Michael Mayer. You're kind of playing Bowers to get hurt, but he still has a good profile. Dulcich, somebody mentioned in the chat.
Yeah. I mean, we might be looking at a Knicks build here.
Yeah. We actually have a decent amount of quarterback options now because we have Daniel Jones with Nabers, Bryce Young with Leggett, Carr with Juwan, and then Bo Nix with Javonte.
Yeah, opening up 2 stacks on that turn was pretty sick.
I don't love playing JJ McCarthy, but we could also play him with Addison.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. JJ might sit a long time. That's my only.
Chat pointed out too we got to pay attention. I think this is going to be a 3 quarterback build almost for sure. But Lawrence and Derek Carr same week 12 bye. So we can file that away. Our other running backs here, we're up to 4. Travis Etienne, Javonte Williams, Zach Charbonnet, Rico Dowdle. Wide receivers looking good here. Puka, Malik Nabers, Keenan Allen, Rashee Rice, Brian Thomas, Jordan Addison, and Xavier Leggett. And then Laporta and Juwan Johnson. I would say other than like wanting maybe a slightly better tight end too, I kind of like this team.
Yeah,
so
it's
far.
fun.
Yeah.
The running backs.
The Channel Kitchen, weeks 1 through 4. I don't know. 1 through 4.
The running backs we ended up hitting all have pretty, I mean, assuming Javonte Williams has a role, they all have pretty solid role. I mean, we're assuming Rico Dowdle certainly does when we take him there. But if those guys are involved and Charbonnet is going to be involved, we didn't put a lot of draft capital into running back. And it's almost like, I also feel like we could almost stop at 4. Like, I don't think we will necessarily, but these are all guys like that have standalone value. And I feel good about considering we also have Laporta and these receivers. Like, it's pretty sick build.
No, I really, the running backs that we got for the capital we spent is nuts.
Yeah. And Leggett being there. So just to give some names, I mean, Demario Douglas went ahead of him. I guess it was kind of a run on the rookie wide receivers there. I mean, Adonai Mitchel in that round does not look bad either. But going from Leggett like immediately to like the Mooney and the Dotsons or whatever, I like that a good bit.
Me too.
So Derek Carr does go off the board to Olave drafter out of the 2-hole. We do see a little bit of a run coming here on quarterbacks. I think one of these picks should be a quarterback. Do you guys have a preference on, like, by ADP, the 2 highest here are Daniel Jones and Bryce Young?
I think Jones is the biggest upside guy, but I know you guys are a little worried about the late season stuff. I've been playing it as if he's not a lock to get benched late season. And then
he's not a lock. If they make the playoffs, they would definitely ride him, but it's just
even if they're like reasonably close to the playoffs.
If they're reasonably close, yeah.
Because like I think Dable and Schoen are then on the hot seat. We talked about this on an earlier show, but like they're tied to him. If they bench him, they get fired. Like I think they need to win out and try to get to 7-10 if they're 5-10. Like,
maybe, yeah. And if they're going to get fired, maybe they don't care who's who
Right.
else is having to pay Daniel Jones next year. That might be a funny little joke.
Running backs getting gross. I was going to be excited to talk about Ray Davis. There he goes. Braylon Allen is also still available. Chuba, Antonio Gibson is available as well.
Either's good.
Do you guys want to get Daniel Jones and a running back, or do you want to double tap like Jones and Bryce Young?
I'd be Bryce over Jones, just because Bryce is starting all year.
Yeah, and Bryce opens up Jatavian late too if we want to try that.
That's true. And honestly, the guy I'd be most upset to lose would be Nix.
Yeah. Do you guys want to double tap quarterback here, or do you want to do like a Gibson?
We don't have Nix stacked right now. Oh, we have Javonte.
Yeah.
I'm very in on taking Nix for sure.
Okay, let's do Nix because then again, now we have Dulcich and Jatavian Sanders as late flyer options.
I like that.
Okay.
Those are great backdoor tight ends.
Yeah, and now we have 3 quarterbacks, different bye weeks: Lawrence, Bryce Young, Bo Nix. That's a fine QB3 room.
Pat, I know you're concerned about the Daniel Jones thing, but we were talking yesterday. You seem kind of down on Bryce. I guess I would be a little bit concerned about his actual like particular scoring, if I was as concerned as you seem to be. Yes.
No, I mean I'm not. My thing with my thing with Young is that when I'm comparing him to players like Levis, I don't have a lot more optimism for Young than I do for Levis, even though if you asked me this time last year, I'd be like, Young, but when you have a rookie year that bad, I think it kind of we saw a big sample, and I know that big sample was with bad coaching, but it's pretty concerning to me to where I think the outlook is pretty similar now to Levis's as far as a fantasy player goes, given the volume increase that Levis will get. And also I think a modern offense, kind of coaching upgrade. I think Vrabel had his strengths, but as far as like building out an offense the way we prefer, not one of them. So that's kind of where I'm at on Young. And like compared to a guy like May or even Nix, the optimism that I have for like a big ceiling is not all that high. But I don't know. We're getting Canales. We're getting a former number 1 overall pick. We're getting Diontae Johnson and Xavier Legette added to the offense. And I do think he is starting all year. Even if he just like comes on at the end of the season and starts flashing, like that could be a win at these prices. Levis already off the board. We don't have any, Patriots. I don't have to take Drake May every time, and it's part of a 3 quarterback build where having him add useful weeks over the course of the season is pretty helpful. If I had Josh Allen, then I'm like, let's just stack up the Patriots and take Drake May here. Let's have some more fun. But Young's going to start all season, including the end of the season. So that's where I do take some Young.
Yeah. Who do you prefer, Young or Levis?
I probably prefer Levis because I take more Hopkins than I take Diontae.
Yeah,
but I'm at 8% Levis and 6% Young on underdogs, so it's not like they're both. I think they're both totally fine. Levis, I think, probably better spike week upside kind of profile because he chucks it deep. And Levis, I think, will start all year. I mean, he's potentially bad enough to where he could just get straight up benched, but I think you get a little bit more of like the scoring profile upside with Levis than you do with Young.
Yeah. All right. We got 7 minutes for this gift card giveaway here. If we can get 3.5 rounds done. Everyone's kind of digging at the bottom of their boards. Colby Parkinson, Jelani Woods coming off. So we know structurally, no, we're not. Probably definitely a running back flyer here. Definitely a tight end. I guess kind of 2 other picks I think could go in other directions.
Yeah.
Daniel Jones still on the board. I don't know if we'd entertain a 4 quarterback build at these prices.
I mean, given the prices, I'm not opposed.
I'm shocked. Pat's just not an FFPC influencer. Drake May still on the board as well.
Is there any doubt that I'm not an FFPC influencer? We've tried to influence this ADP since 2018.
I'm currently being bullied in text by Jacob Sanderson for being anti-Richardson, and I just want to be clear. Like, I understand Richardson could be good. Like, I'm this is out of nowhere. But I every stream I'm on from here to the beginning of the season, I don't want to be known as the anti-Richardson guy.
Okay. We're on the clock. Daniel Jones is here. Another name that's here too, like Daniel Jones, Tyrone Tracy, if we want to do that. The best wide receiver here, in my opinion, is Malachi Corley. after this run of wide receivers.
What about those tight ends?
I think
The tight ends are all still here.
I think I'd be Dulcich and maybe Tracy.
I think we definitely need another running back. Do you like Tracy, Ben?
Yeah. Yes, I really like Tracy.
All right.
Yeah,
And then, let's definitely get a tight end. I mean, the question is, do you guys prefer Dulcich to Jatavian Sanders? They're both similar ADP. I guess Dulcich goes much later, but who knows?
I think I do, but
I think you got to take him and then you got to roll a clip because we haven't rolled a clip all year.
Yes. So, okay.
Do we have a clip for one of these players and not the other? So maybe
Wow.
we
I can't even. It's been so long since we played a clip because we don't have any good players that are draftable anymore.
God, look at that hair. Oh my God. Oh my God, it's so beautiful.
Daniel Atkins dork.
Trigger.
I can't figure out why it didn't work out for him as a head
There's
coach.
so much trauma to all of these clips. I mean, people are asking, how do we still not have a clip for this year? I mean, I haven't had one of those epiphany moments yet. I mean, who's the guy we take in every draft? Do we have one of those guys yet? Probably Javonte Williams at this rate. Jesus.
I mean, we can't make. I mean, it's always a rookie, right? Like what?
I feel like Bucky Irving's the guy I want to make a clip for. I'm a Husky guy. And he
Okay,
played at
I mean,
Oregon,
I can get
but
on
I'm
board with Bucky. I select him.
drafting a lot of Bucky Irving.
Yeah, we definitely do Bucky. He's a good clip guy, especially because it sounds like he's just going to play behind Rashad all year.
4 minutes, drafters. Can you pull this off?
It's me a total bust.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if the two things that are going to happen is he's going to suddenly get way more expensive, and he's also going to be bad. So I don't know if we need a Bucky clip. I got a lot of Bucky.
That's
I
true
got
because
Bucky pegs.
Bucky is really cheap too, so we could like run that ADP up before it all ends in tears.
I love the initial Jalen McMillan suggestion, but Gretsch shot that one down early on.
Unreliable, he said.
I'm not trying to like shoot it down. I call him unreliable. I don't take McMillan a ton. I take him. I had pretty good bags pre-draft at McMillan. After the unreliable clip, he was one of my highest drafted pre-draft players because I didn't know why he was so much cheaper than Polk, but he's still a lot cheaper than Polk with the ADP difference.
I'm gonna be out.
Yeah,
I should have mentioned because we're trying to work out our schedule. So I'm gonna be out from Wednesday the 31st through August 14th to put together a Drake May clip.
How pumped did you?
Can't wait to give you the edits on that.
I wish I could have seen Pat's face when he read that Drake May split first team reps the first day. Like, what did you do?
Dude, there's a Freebird clip of Drake May running around. Like, what? I mean, what a fun player, How are we not in on Drake May? Like, it is just that, and the throw to Rager. I mean, that was such a sick throw. People, I just don't think people know how funny he is. Once they know how funny he is, this ADP is gonna be gone.
All right, we're gonna be wrapping up our draft here at the turn. I mean, structurally, guys, we have 3 quarterbacks, 5 running backs, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7 wide receivers, and 3 tight ends here. There's a couple interesting wide receiver flyers down here that I take on Underdog. The quarterbacks other than McCarthy are gone. I don't think we really need to go McCarthy as a QB4.
No.
Tight end has been pretty wiped, although Jatavian Sanders is still kicking around here. The running backs by ADP, you're looking at Damian Pierce, Diontae Foreman, Alexander Madison, and P. Ryan. The wide receiver that's interesting to me here is Devontae Walker.
That's a good one.
He's one of my favorite.
He got a tiny little mini buzz from one of the first days of camp.
Did he?
Yeah, I think he was working in with the ones, I believe, but behind Bateman and stuff. But I thought that was right.
Of course, got sniped on Devontae Walker right as I said it. I thought didn't have to worry about that, but I did. But I like Jatavian as one of the picks here
for sure.
Rondell Moore is the other kind of interesting wide receiver name to me.
I mean, as far as like a guy who's going to be out there right away, that's pretty good.
Or Diontae Foreman if you want like running back with some early season juice.
What about
Khalif Raymond is actually like he doesn't correlate, but he's actually efficient and is going to run more routes probably.
This is our last pick. Should we just get ahead of the Deneric Prince hype train? Grab him.
We got 20 seconds. I'm hearing lots of suggestions. Somebody pound the table for someone. Rondell Moore, Khalif Raymond, Foreman.
I don't got a table to pound. What do we need structurally?
I think a wide receiver, honestly.
Khalif is fun. They love him.
Rondell or Khalif are both fine.
All right, there's Khalif. We have Laporta. We can we can wrap that up there.
I like that.
I just saw a clip of Estimate catching a pass from Knicks. I mean, the Cecil Lammy tweet I saw, he was saying he was praising both Javonte and Estimate today at camp, talking about pass catching, I believe.
He was praising Javonte now.
No, I think
I've been branded as the hater. He's going to be branded as the Javonte.
Oh, no, you're right. Cecil was the anti. It was Ben Albright was the pro Javonte.
Yes. Albright did a little victory lap yesterday. Said the Javonte obituaries were premature.
Yes. Maybe what we really get out of all of this is like a big beef between all the Broncos beat reporters.
Yes.
That's what we all need.
Just like an Anchorman style fight.
Wouldn't be the first time Benjamin Albright's dirty laundry was aired out on Twitter, although he did that himself the first time. Sorry. All right. I'm going to recap this team here for us and get your guys' final thoughts. We got our 3 quarterbacks, Trevor Lawrence, Bryce Young, and Bo Nix. We got our running backs, Travis Etienne, Javonte Williams, Zach Charbonnet, Rico Dowdle, and Tyrone Tracy. Wide receivers, Puka Nacua, Malik Nabers, Keenan Allen, Rashee Rice, Brian Thomas, Jordan Addison, Xavier Legette, and Khalif Raymond. And 4 tight ends, Sam Laporta, Juwan Johnson, Greg the Leg Dulcich, and Jatavian Sanders. How do we feel?
I honestly feel way better than I should about just getting Greg Dulcich and Jatavian Sanders on this team. Like, one of the beautiful things about drafting fantasy football teams is like that, like in the vast majority of universes, just like straight up doesn't matter. And I'm just sitting here feeling great about it.
Yeah. I kind of like the balance of our rooms. You know, I think Lawrence is a nice quarterback and a QB3, got him stacked up. Etienne's a nice anchor. And then we got some good targets there, a little rookie upside with Tracy. Wide receiver room, I think, is awesome. And then like Laporta with the tight end flyers, I think works out well.
Yeah. And the Etienne pick actually does work out really well with this build because it allowed us to push the running back. We grabbed 3. It allowed us to push running back 5. To Ben's point, like if we didn't get a running back 5, it wouldn't have been a disaster. And then it allows us to take a big cut with Tracy, little PPR juice at the end of the season, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was just going to throw out that I worry a little about the QBs. I really like Nix as a QB3, but I worry about his scoring profile, and then I worry about Young's. So little concern about that, but Lawrence is probably my favorite mid-round upside QB this year. And on a team with Etienne and Brian Thomas, it's like a clear bet on Jacksonville's offense. Thomas is the one that if we're betting on him, then I think we're betting on Lawrence to set a career high in pass TDs. I mentioned recently he hasn't thrown more than 25 pass TDs, but he actually has like sneaky rushing ability. If Thomas hits, Lawrence hits. If Lawrence hits, Etienne is brought along in a positive way.
The other thing with like Trevor Lawrence's passing touchdown numbers, he's the type of dude that could just blow up for a ton of touchdowns. Like he plays a variant version of the quarterback position. Like he goes for it. He's aggressive.
Yep.
He makes mistakes in the red zone, which is annoying, but like
clean those up in year 4, you know?
Yeah, clean those up. And also like, you know, he's trying to do stuff in the red zone is another way to think about that. You know, so what if the stuff works?
People see the mistakes and they think that he lacks ceiling, I think, as a player, because he's never probably going to live up to what he was as a 101. I see the mistakes in the play style, and I'm like, look, some quarterbacks just need a little more time to get all the reads and all the stuff into their head. A lot of quarterbacks peak after 30, man. Like, he's not
– complicated position.
It's a complicated position. He's played under Urban Meyer in year one. Like, let's cut him a little bit of slack with, like, he's probably had to learn the sport completely over when Doug Peterson took over in year 2 of his career. I mean, it would not be that shocking if Lawrence finally took a significant leap in year 4.
Given his pedigree, it wouldn't be shocking at all. Like,
No.
it really wouldn't. If we were just like talking about like, oh, Lawrence is one of the best quarterbacks in the league now. Like, not in the Allen Mahomes Joe. That's not what I'm saying. But like, in kind of that group that always forms behind those guys of like these are like the other really good quarterbacks. Lawrence is just like cemented this year in our minds as like, you know, he's arrived as part of that group.
Yeah.
It's really not, that wouldn't really surprise me.
And I agree, Ben, like it's probably just a teeny bit weak as a quarterback room, but getting all of them correlated, you know, being like, hey, can we get Carolina and Denver has really improved offenses. And then we have a ton of other kind of small correlated bets. Like the Tracy Neighbors one is fun. Laporta, Raymond. So kind of betting on some of these other kind of undervalued spots there, not Laporta, but with the Giants as well. So I kind of like how this team shook out. It definitely tells a story.
It does.
Yep.
Ben, to your Bryce Young point, I've been thinking about Diontae Johnson because you were telling me you're drafting Diontae Johnson basically every time over Hopkins. And I still really like Hopkins, but I was like, man, I need to get more Diontae. There was a quote from Canales that was like a really fun quote.
I think Gretsch retweeted it.
I did.
What he said about
I did a douchey victory lap off that quote. I realized afterward I wish I would have framed that a little different because it got a lot of likes.
He said tendencies are okay to have as long as you know you have them, because then you know that what the defense is sort of assuming what you do and then you work off of that. I was like, this guy's smart. And also he just told me he's going to have like a insanely high first read target rate to Diontae. Did you
see the quote before that quote?
Yeah, where he said, "Where's Diontae? Our offense."
Yeah, he was like, "We're going to build our offense around this guy."
Yeah, yeah. But then he also said, "And I don't care if the defense knows that."
Right. Yes.
I was like, okay, yeah, they a lot of first.
It made me think of the Randy ratio. Mike Tice and Nate Tice's son does great work for Yahoo now as an analyst. Mike Tice was the old coach for the Vikings and came out around this time in the offseason and said, "We're going to have a Randy ratio this year. We're going to throw to Randy Moss 40% of the time." Like, that's the ratio. 40% of our passes have to go to Randy Moss. And it didn't really work great that year, but it reminded me of that in the sense it was like, I don't care if you know. He's Randy Moss. Right. We're going to try to throw everything at him, and then hopefully you put 7 guys on him, and I can throw to someone else sometimes.
Because I know you know, and then I'll use that against you sometimes.
Right.
Yeah.
But Diontae Johnson is like the leader in open score and elite reception perception profile and always strong targets per out run every single year of his career. And like, I mean, it's probably going to mean a lot of targets. The targets are good. Targets are the lifeblood of fantasy scoring.
Targets are good. I mean, yeah.
I'm not saying he's going to be efficient. He's never been hyper efficient, but he's going to have a lot of targets. So that's good.
The reason I was bringing up is we talked about who we could have a clip for, and I was hoping maybe you could put together a Diontae clip because I don't really have that much, and I kind of need him to bust now.
That's why everyone's worried about the Drake May clip because it's just the implications
no one
here.
wants it. No one wants it.
Before I forget, I think we're gonna do another one of these next week. So if you watch this or you missed out getting in this draft, we'll probably hop in another sit and go next week at 3 p.m. And then we're really close to finalizing our streaming schedule for August. We're getting our main event drafts lined up, reaching out, booking the guests and contributors. And I'm also going to circulate that form that I've been promising in the Ship Chasing Discord, because we are going to have a couple spots available to draft a team with us in Vegas, to do a slow FFPC main event draft with us, and some underdog opportunities likely as well. So if you guys are YouTube members, that's one of the perks in the Discord. You guys get priority access to that co-manager program we've done each year, and the form will have all of those details. But guys, I'm starting to get the redraft itch here, drafting these teams, seeing these tight end premium picks. We're about to start ripping here.
We are, and the slow main we've been doing has been a ton of fun, and yeah, it hits different when you're in these main event teams. You know, it's like you're going to be managing them. You kind of build the teams a little bit differently. You take shots on different types of players. It's very fun.
Gretch, anything else from you? I will echo what we said at the top. If you want some fun scrolls, check out our Reddit AMA yesterday. I think that's still archived and you can go back and do it. And they had a full best ball week. I know Leone and Herzig did it one day. Josh and Hayden did it today. There's been a bunch of fun combos up there on Reddit.
Yep, that was a really fun one. I wrote a long piece this week called The Macro Trends You Need to Understand to Dominate in Fantasy in 2024. Talked a lot about a concept I've mentioned on the show a couple of times about how I still think about the passing game through ADOT and how the players space the field vertically. We talked through this a little bit during the Juwan Johnson pick in terms of, what the ranges of outcomes for different targets for different players are. Got a pretty positive response on that and have enjoyed the feedback there. That's a piece I would reference. And then I'm writing up my first offseason stealing signals post right now, which I end up writing one for each division. The signal noise stuff that I learned doing the projections, break down every offense. And I was working on that this morning. Those are all very long, very involved, and they'll be coming for signal subs.
Awesome. Pat, what about you? Leg up?
Yeah, I'm been working on an article, kind of a follow. I did an article a few weeks ago on looking at the profiles of the early round running backs, kind of asking the questions about like how different is this from years past, and I'm doing that for the running backs that are going in the spot where we're actually enjoying taking running backs in round 7 and on. So that'll be out pretty soon.
Awesome. Keep an eye out for that. Like I said, if you guys are YouTube members, you get access to our mini-sodes. The first 2 are out. I will probably publish the 3rd tomorrow. Been getting lots of good feedback on that as we talk through strategy and player selection takes. And then for me, I have a double header tonight with my buddy Nick Ercolano from BDGE. He's doing randomizer at 8 p.m. Eastern, and then we're going to roll right into an after dark at 9 p.m. Eastern with Nick Ercolano, so you can check that out. Appreciate you guys hanging out, and thank you to all the ship chasers who filled this tournament. I know we didn't get to sauce everybody's team today, but appreciate you guys joining and battling it out with us in these FFPC best ball streets. I also see Underdog just launched a few new contests while we were live. I believe there's a $75 single entry Bulldog, which sounds like a fun contest. So we can check those out as well. But for Pat, for Ben, thank you to producer Nick. We'll see you guys next time on Greg Dulcich Chasing.